Some thoughts on domestic violence. I saw an article on ABC Online this morning that said that there's some big report on domestic violence, and supposedly, what was it? 1 in 4 women have been subjected. 1 in 4 women have been subjected to domestic violence. I wouldn't know about the report. The report is supposed to be launched by Pru Goward today. Pru Goward is the Minister for, what is she? The Minister for Prevention of Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault. That's her title. And yes, I have thoughts about domestic violence. There's one question that there's two questions that feminists don't let you ask anymore. You cannot say to a victim of domestic violence, you cannot say to them, why don't you leave that situation? Why don't you leave? And you cannot ask them, why did you get into it in the first place? You can't ask those two questions because presumably or ostensibly, whatever, that's supposed to blame the victim according to feminist ideology. The thing about reports like that, anyway, reports like this big report, is that in sociology, you can get all sorts of results to all sorts of questionnaires and things just by asking certain questions in a particular way. And yes, I'm never truly impressed with these sociological surveys and questionnaires and things. I remember Eva Cox, she was feminist. Eva Cox said that research shows that it's better for all concerned if a cuckolded husband has no idea of the paternity of the child. In other words, according to research, according to Eva Cox, according to research, it's better for all concerned if a man has to pay for a baby that isn't even his, and that he's not allowed to get any paternity testing done. That's all according to research, according to Eva Cox. I would say that would be according to feminist research. So feminist research, feminist sociologists can look for what they want. Gay sociologists can look for what they want, and you can look for what, I'm gay, by the way. You can look for results, and you can ask questions that will lead to the results that you want in that sort of those sort of questionnaires and experiments and studies are often methodologically flawed. I'm not saying that 1 in 4 women aren't, however, subjected to domestic violence. I do ask those questions, though. I do say, why don't you leave? Well, I dare to ask that question. I say, why don't you leave? And I also say, why did you pick a partner like that, an abusive partner in the first place? Because it takes 2 people to have a relationship. It takes 2 people to have a sick relationship. An abusive relationship is a sick relationship. It takes 2 people to have a sick relationship. Fair enough, there are some husbands that will be controlling, and will even go to the women's refuge and even murder some woman who's trying to escape a situation. The fact is, however, that I ask those questions. Why did you get in that relationship, that abusive relationship in the first place? And yes, why don't you leave? These abusive relationships can happen to men too, of course. A boy at my school, he was gay, and yes, he married some woman, and he was a battered husband for years and years. Appalling, really, until he got out. At some point, he decided to get out. That's another thing. We're all very sympathetic when with battered spouse syndrome, when a battered spouse kills his or her spouse or her husband. You know, there are plenty of celebrated cases where some usually a woman, she's being battered, so she kills her husband, then she gets off completely, or gets a very short sentence, or gets let off on manslaughter, or whatever. She's given the kid glove soft treatment. People have compassion for her because she was a battered housewife for years and years. But, we don't say, why did you get into that relationship in the first place, and why did you stay in it? Our sympathies are with the victim. Feminists don't mind victims if they're female victims, do they? On the other hand, yes, it's okay. it's okay to be a victim if it pleases and suits feminists, like victims of domestic assault, and statistically. And on the other hand, women are supposed to be viragos, doing it for themselves. So I have lots of thoughts about feminism. I know Pru Goward. She's pro-women's choice as far as abortion is concerned. So this is a minister for prevention of domestic violence and sexual assault. She's pro-women having the right to cut out a baby out of their tummy, an unborn baby. That could be argued as a type of assault, couldn't it? It could be argued that an abortion was an assault of some sort. There again, Pru Goward has, I can imagine who gave her that grandiose title. What is it? Minister for Prevention of Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault. This is a woman who was Sex Discrimination Commissioner for 3 years. She was also Minister... Here comes Pussy. She was also Minister for Family and Community Services for some years, and now she's got this grandiose title as Minister for Prevention of Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault. But never in her career, in all these positions I've just mentioned, has she ever uttered one word in defence of genital integrity for a male child as a human right. She has never defended one male child that I know of for his right to have an intact penis. And as far as I'm concerned, genital mutilation done in a family situation is domestic violence. It is domestic violence. It's done with the yes, hello, Pussy. It's done with the agreement of church, society, government, hospitals. It's legalised domestic violence, male genital mutilation. We don't tolerate it for female children, but Pru Goward isn't going to defend a male child's right to a whole body. She isn't. There are some of my thoughts, anyway. I know what it's like to be in an abusive relationship, because I grew up without any self-esteem. I know what it's like to go into relationships. There's always, if you're a person with no self-esteem and inclined to be self-destructive, there's always somebody out there, isn't there, who's ready to treat you like garbage, to treat you like rubbish. There is always that somebody out there. I say to women who are complaining about domestic violence, I say, it's better not to get into that situation in the first place. Pick somebody who will respect you. And if you do find yourself in that situation, I think you should get out of it. Because it takes two people to have a sick relationship, and a domestic violence relationship is a sick relationship. It is. See ya. That is, what sort of bird is that? It's not a noisy firebird. The name escapes me at the moment. What is it? Tell me.